really maybe even a dime for every time I heard like, "Oh my god, you look so good. You don't even look sick." I would probably be able to pay this insurance company their whole deductible at one time at the beginning of the year, so I don't have to keep playing with like little sub costs. Welcome to Unmasked Life with Autoimmune, the place where real stories, real symptoms, and real strength live. No filters, no pretending, just truth, hope, and the fight we live every day unmasked. What exactly does sickness look like is the question. Hey guys, welcome to Unmasked Life with Autoimmune. I'm your host, Ash from Ash Fights Lupus, and today we'll be talking about the fact that you don't look sick.
What the hell?
So, one of the things that I really want to touch on this Lupus Awareness Month is really just the dangers of invisible illness, right? The stereotypes that come along with being sick, looking sick, not looking sick. Welcome to episode 3. So, of course, y'all have my notes and stuff. It's literally the third week of May, and I don't know if in my mind all of a sudden people will just like start knowing things about lupus. I'm not sure, but like in my mind, in May, the world is purple. Even the shirt I got on is purple. And everything is focused on what do people should know about lupus? What is lupus? How many lupuses are there? Is it inside the body, outside the body? What type of lupus did Michael Jackson have? Like, that's all the things that are just running through my mind right now, right? So when I hear you don't look sick, I'll flip this table. Before I get started on my rant, I do want to talk about the fact that I have been on Ben listed now since the end of April. And I'm not gonna lie, I might be a fan. I've had a couple of moments in which one of my church members basically was like, it was just pain at one point, huh? And like she's correct. It was just pain at one point. But my lupus flare-ups, my flare-up is seemingly getting better. Benlysta is to attack systemic lupus erythematosus, the systemic lupus that lives in the body. And I'm still feeling like it's helping some of the discoid, some of the um, my skin is beginning to feel a little bit more softer, less crunchy, thanks to the lupus and the Sjogren's symptoms, everything can get real dry real quick, real fast. But thanks to Benlysta, I've had enough infusions now that I am month to month. And so I won't see them again until the beginning of June. And so that's exciting. It hasn't been a hassle, I want to admit. Really low key. You go into your rheumatologist office, though that's where I'm getting treated. And I see my same nurse, hey Megan, each time. And she puts me in one of my booths. I have 2 TVs going. There's some snacks, some drinks. I bring my iPad and headphones so I can watch whatever show I'm currently streaming from Disney, Hulu, Combo, ESPN, Bonus Plus, whatever. And really, it goes by in an hour. The last 2 times I have had to have an appointment during them, but it's because I was due for a follow up. When you go to the rheumatologist, they'll send you to the um, eye doctor, they'll send you to the neurologist, just depending on the nephrologist, just depends on, what organ, they are concerned about right now, seeing as how lupus affects them all. Benlisted so far has been pretty good. I started a Substack to talk about it. I had one instance in which, like, from head to toe, I couldn't identify where the pain was coming from. It was after a treatment, but in my research, I found that people actually aren't talking about this. I want to know if I'm the first person ever to have like some type of Benlysta attack after treatment. And so, like, I've heard people go back to work and like I go back to a safe haven and then I sleep like a bear for at least the next 6 to 8 hours. And then the next 36 hours are kind of touch and go, right? You don't know if food is going to stay down. If it is staying down, how it's going to affect you. Is it going to be something that makes you feel terrible? Or I will just being honest, vegetables right now, vegetables and fruit, cucumbers. Cucumbers are my friends right now, okay? Anything that doesn't have too much of a superb overlaying taste. Anything that's too extra, I don't want. Salmon, rice, those have been my friends. Salads, those have been really easy uh, to eat and stay down to feel okay. You know, one of the things that rheumatologists will tell you about is like the oily fish, oily proteins. And so, for whatever reason, God has been telling me to listen to these rheumatologists, y'all. So I have been trying to eat according to it. And I'm not sure if it helps the Benlista, but it certainly don't hurt it. So that's been Benlista is we riding with it, y'all. Of course, I'll continue updating y'all. Now that I'm headed to month, so every 30 days, I'm interested to see, how I feel. And we're rounding around to about 90 days on it. And so I'm looking for some huge improvements, okay? So like I said, one of the issues that I have with you don't look sick really is it's the danger of being unseen, right? People with autoimmune don't really have a look, right? I would say in the 90s, we were conditioned to think that if you saw somebody with a bald head or a bandana on their head and they looked, maybe pale or like they've lost their color, perhaps they were going through some type of radiation, right? We were conditioned to what sickness could look like. Well, the truth of the matter is, autoimmune doesn't have a look, right? If I covered my arms and I beat my face, you're gonna be like, "Who's sick?" The neurologist once asked my husband that. This girl, you talking about that girl right there? She's sick, and like, yes, yes, that one over there that's talking to you normally, that doesn't appear to be having any crazy type of anxiety attack, who doesn't seem like lupus drug her in, toe first today. No, yes, that girl over there, while she's presenting really nicely for you right now, she is sick. And I just think that it becomes an emotional toll of telling people that, like, yes, I am very, very ill. I do not know how you can get ill next week from the flu and be down bad for 56 hours. But my autoimmune system has decided to, or just my immune system has decided to attack my skin, my eyesight, because truthfully, it is blurry while I'm talking to y'all. And it just means that I was exposed to too much light today, right? How much is too much light? I'm sitting in a room in my home, still too much light. And so there's just different feelings that people get and feel when you speak to the fact of how they look versus how they actually are. So if you everybody could take a moment and think before we speak, that would be so helpful, right? Especially when it comes to the physical toll as well. So oftentimes because you don't think I look sick, right? You maybe have dealt out a little bit more responsibility to me or my load's a little heavier, but it's just because, right, for surface level, Ashley looks normal. Oh, it's Ash. She got it. Oh man, no, you don't even know how she deals under pressure, right? Those are some of the things, those are some of the physical things that people are having to fight through, right? And then it leads to pushing through, right? Yeah, I do want to show up for you. I want to show up for my community. Oh, we're doing what at this house when? No, that's the third day that I would have been running back to back. Okay, no, you definitely still need me there. I'm coming. And so it leads to a physical toll of trying to keep up, trying to act as if you are fine, right? You're fine. And so you want to keep going. And it's just damaging. It causes you to try to push through flares and the days that you should be inside resting in the dark, you've gone out again, exposing your arms yet again to the sun, right? Um, I think that that invisibility, right, cloak, just it complicates some of um the benefits to being disabled. And when I say the benefits to being disabled, right, getting financial help from the government, right? If you see me online every day talking about this, right, how sick could she be? I've had several conversations where people, even lupus patients, are like, well, how are you? I'm not doing anything differently than you guys do, guys. I promise you, every day I wake up, my body still feels terrible for the 2 hours that I get out of bed. I do have to stretch like this, right? I'm groaning when I go to feed the dogs food, when I open the door in the morning to let the dogs out into the backyard. My wrist and fingers too are like unthaw, right? And so there's nothing that I'm doing differently, right? But that invisibility, right, will lead you to believe that, right? Maybe I'm more capable, maybe I'm more able, right? And honestly, right, even the Bible says that people look at the physical, right? People judge the physical. And so a caseworker could, deem me as not being disabled enough. There's just different things, right, that comes with that invisibility cloak. I think it also leads y'all to like misinformation, right? There's just a loop, right? I'm trying to think of like a common myth, right? Like lupus comes from the gut, right? There's like you could basically eat your way healthy. And so that is really, really hard to hear, especially being a fluffy girl. Listen, I've been thick a long time and I've been thin. I just want to be honest there too, thick and thin through this lupus stuff. And there isn't a change in how things feel, regardless of if I'm 150 pounds or 250 pounds. There is no difference, right? Someone in an 80-pound body could be feeling the exact same things as I do, or more or less. Has nothing to do with what they ate that day, though. Oh, a diet will help you. Antioxidants, wonderful, right? Anti-inflammatory diets, turmeric, those things are wonderful for the body. But they happen to work in tandem with the medications and the treatments that you are taking. A diet alone will not fix it. Your lupus, it will not cure anything, right? I've seen several times and received several messages of people talking about being cured. Well, the truth of the matter is, there is not a scientific official cure, right? If we knew how to cure lupus, y'all, we all would have already had taken that cure. I'd give up a little baby toe. I kid you not. I'm willing to give up a toe for the cure for lupus, right? Like that's how serious it is. That's how terrible this type of disease is, right? And so hearing things that aren't true, I've heard before it was contagious. Nothing has stressed me more than me thinking you think that you could catch this from touching me. My mind, right? Like my worst nightmare ever is the the little whispers, right? When I don't know what someone is thinking. I would love for someone to be like, "Hey, you don't mind. What's going on with your arms?" Absolutely. So I can tell you, this is not contagious. You can hug me all day long. You're not getting this. I am special, right? Me and about a million other people in the US. That's it. And so there's just little things, little common myths, misinformation, right? That's often shared that doesn't have to be, and again comes underneath this invisibility cloak, right? If you don't see my arms, you don't know anything is wrong. If you don't know that I love to dance all day, every day. And then when I am not dancing, I am not feeling well. You don't know that. You don't know me. If you were to talk to my parents and my husband, she's always moving, always moving. And so when she's slowing down and she's sitting, right, something's wrong. She's tired. Something's flaring up. And so um I just think I think those there's dangers in those myths being able to be spread around the internet, in the medical industry, in your communities, right? In some type of way, the blame gets kind of shifted to the patients, right? I go from my illness being invisible, you can't see it, right? To now I'm lazy, right? She doesn't want to help. She doesn't want to contribute. They're slacking on their job and their relationships and their responsibilities, right? Things that, right, you've assumed, but I really am just sick and dealing with chronic fatigue, right, from an autoimmune disease. And so I really think that education protects the patients, right? It helps you to advocate for yourself, right? One of the things that people talk about a lot is right, me showing up. I have not always been able to speak to lupus like this. I have a wonderful rheumatologist, a wonderful group of doctors that I can send a message to right now, and somebody is going to respond to me at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And so it's just a lovely feeling of being able to reach out to people and people who experts in the industry to learn more, ask more, right? I am all about advocating for myself. You're not about to tell me no without a reason. I'm open to a no, right? I'm more open to a yes, but I'm open to a no if you're able to share what, why, how this affects, right? And if we don't know, then we're about to head straight into some research. You understand? Um, I think one of the things that we can do really as patients, as caregivers, people who are in this industry is really shine some light, right? Things that we don't know. So one of the scariest things that I've heard so far in the industry is people who are living with lupus nephritis, right? It affects it's inflammation of the kidneys, right? Caused by lupus, of course, and I don't deal with lupus nephritis, right? By the grace of God, my kidneys have not been affected. My skin, my brain, my tongue, my abdomen, like seriously, other places have been affected by lupus, but not my kidneys, right? But when people say that you don't look sick, you cannot see inflammation of the kidneys until it's too late, right? There are signs that, later down the line, oh my God, I see the effects of how the inflammation of the kidney has affected the body. But on the onstart of the inflammation, you can't see that. How do you tell someone they don't look sick? You can't see the inside of my kidneys. You don't know, right? And so I think that the "you don't look sick" statement, it causes a multitude of things, right? But at the end of the day, I think that if you hear that I'm sick and I don't look sick, the first thing I want you to do is get on Google. Why does Ash say she's sick, but she does not look sick? What should systemic lupus look like? First off, Google's gonna tell you it don't look like nothing. But you're also going to get, right, just a crash course in what lupus symptoms could be affecting different people, what symptoms are, how no two symptoms look alike, how me and the girl next to me and the man on this side of me all have the same version of lupus, right? Systemic lupus erythematosus, it's affecting us. And she has lost all her hair. I am fighting for my eyesight, and this man is struggling with skin peeling. None of those are the same things, right? None of us are experiencing the same symptoms, right? But we all have lupus. And so I think that we have to be a little bit more responsible in our speech, right? How we speak to things, especially if we're going to speak to autoimmune community, if we're going to talk about symptoms, if we're going to address invisible illness and disease, right? We have to be upfront about what exactly it is, how it affects everyone differently, right? I think one of the most important things you can do as someone in this industry is to track the symptoms, right? I think that not all of us are open to participating in research, right? I am very hesitant, right? I do. I want them to find out so much about lupus, but I also am a little nervous about being the one to volunteer my symptoms as research. because oftentimes with lupus, while we're practicing, right, trying to get to a better answer, a better cure, right, we just don't know. And so it gets a little scary trying things, right? But I will say that nothing has protected me like self advocacy, right? Writing down my symptom and saying, hey, we tried this pill for 2 weeks. For the past 2 weeks, this is what I have seen, this is what I feel, and this is what I wanted to share with you. Those type of things helps to make lupus a little bit more visible. My doctor can go to another patient and say, hey, I have a 35-year-old Black woman who is also in the South who is experiencing this. This may be similar to what you are experiencing. 47-year-old Black male who is in the South, whose diet and lifestyle mirrors Ash here in Texas. And so I think those are the type of things that when we start to share this type of information amongst ourselves in our community, in different forums on the internet, right? That's where we're able to provide a little bit more protection for those who are living, with this invisible illness, right? These invisible symptoms. Once again, y'all, I really want to thank y'all for tuning in to episode 3, where we are discussing really the dangers of the unseen, right? The misinformation, right? The stereotypes that come along with living with an invisible illness. I want to remind you guys that the reason I'm here, the reason that I'm asking you to listen and to share is because there's a lot of power in our stories, right? Oftentimes, if I don't know anyone with lupus the first time that I come across Ash in her arms, I'm like, what is this, right? But the more that we share these type of stories and get this information out, right, the closer we come to answers, further research, and further help for our community. So if you guys can do anything this week, correct one myth. You're going to hear something crazy this week about lupus. Stop it dead in its tracks. That's not true, right? And please remind everyone that Google is their starting point, right? Everybody can go to Google and get some information. It may not be true. What you can do, though, is continue to research. Go to your rheumatologist, look for your local doctor groups, your medical groups. If you are in the state of Texas, I encourage you to touch base with the Lone Star chapter of the Lupus Foundation of America. Most states here in the United States have a chapter, as well as some international chapters. And then lastly, I wanted to ask, what is one of the most dangerous, like the single most dangerous piece of information you've heard about lupus or autoimmune? Will you share it with me, please? Head on over to my Instagram, send me a DM, because I would love to mention it next week, right? And then last but not least, if you know someone who is living with lupus, right? You know someone who needs some encouragement, send them right on over to Ash Fights Lupus. Ash Fights Lupus everywhere. Once again, this is Ash. And thanks for tuning in to episode 3 of Unmasked Life with Autoimmune. And you can follow me anywhere that you listen to podcasts, as well as across all social medias at Ash Fights Lupus. Until next time, y'all, keep fighting.